It's kind of wild to think about how long the PS4 has lasted. Like, yeah, I knew it was a successful console, but I didn't think it'd still be this present in 2025. When the PS5 came out, I'd figured we'd slowly see the PS4 fade into the background. Maybe a couple years of cross-gen support and then that would be it. But that didn't happen. Instead, the PS4 just kind of stuck around, and not in the quiet way either. It's still everywhere. You hop online and you'll see tons of people still playing Fortnite or Warzone on the PS4. You check the PlayStation Store and new games are still launching with PS4 versions. You can go to GameStop's website or browse secondhand listings, and PS4 consoles and games are still widely available. It never really got that clean break most consoles eventually get. And honestly, I think a lot of us underestimated just how long it could last. It's been 12 years now. That's already longer than what we saw with the PS3. And even though the PS5 has finally pulled ahead in user count, it doesn't feel like the PS4 is winding down. If anything, it feels like it's entered this strange phase where it just refuses to go away. And I don't mean that in a bad way, it's actually impressive. The PS4 isn't current gen anymore, it hasn't been for a long time, but it's not old enough to feel retro either, you know what I'm saying? It exists in this in-between space where it's still completely usable, still completely supported, and still completely relevant. You know, at the end of the day, Sony's still supporting the PS4 because it makes sense financially. That's what it really comes down to. There are over 100 million of these things out there, closer to 117 million if we're being precise. That is a massive install base. And it's not like those consoles are sitting in closets collecting dust. A lot of them are still plugged in, still online, and still in regular use. It kind of feels like some of them are in homes that don't even know that the PS5 exists. Like, that's the scale we're talking about here. And when you have that many people still active on a platform, it's hard to justify walking away from it. Sony's smart enough to know that. You don't just pull the plug on a machine that's still printing money. Even if the PS5 is the future, and it clearly is, the PS4 is still doing work in the background. It's still generating revenue, still keeping people in the PlayStation ecosystem, and still serving the entry point to a ton of players worldwide. That kind of reach is rare, and Sony knows it. And you know, before looking into this, that's something I just didn't think about. Because I'm looking at this from a gamer's perspective who always wants to push things forward, who always wants, better graphics and better performance and all that stuff. And so for a long time, I was looking at the PS4 as being kind of the bane of the PS5's existence. Because I've just been feeling like the PS4 has been holding the PS5 back. But I gotta get real, when I look at these crazy numbers that the PS4 is still pulling in to this day, it makes total sense why Sony is still supporting it. It's like an amazing little passive income machine. Let's break this down though. The obvious piece is game sales. Even if someone only plays a handful of games a year, they're still likely to buy something new every now and then. Maybe it's a big yearly release like Call of Duty, or maybe it's a sale item they grab during a PSN promotion. Either way, that transaction keeps the money flowing. And especially when you look at those free-to-play titles like Fortnite and Warzone in particular. The in-game purchases are off the charts. Every skin, every battle pass, it all goes through Sony's payment systems. And then there's PlayStation Plus. A lot of people forget just how big of a deal that subscription service really is. If you want to play online on the PS4 and it's not a free-to-play game, you need that service. And millions of people are still subscribed to it, whether it's for cloud saves, monthly games, or just to keep playing with friends. That recurring revenue adds up fast, and it's incredibly low maintenance from Sony's side. Once the infrastructure is in place, it mostly runs itself. So even if someone hasn't bought a game in months, if they're still subbed to PS Plus, they're still paying for Sony every year. And beyond the software and subscriptions, there's the digital storefront. You fire up a PS4 and you're immediately connected to a marketplace. It's right there on the home screen. You're just a couple of clicks away from buying something, whether it's a full game, some DLC, or even just themes and avatars. The barrier to spending money is incredibly low, and that's by design. Sony built a system where the more active users they have, the more chances they have to make money off of them, even in small ways. Now, zoom out and think globally. In regions like North America or parts of Europe, it might feel like the PS5 is fully taken over. And see, this is where my perspective was coming in. I'm in the United States, obviously, if you couldn't tell. And so when I look at the PS4 from this perspective, it just doesn't make sense. But this isn't the case everywhere. In a lot of countries, the PS5 is still expensive. It's still hard to find, I think, or simply not worth the upgrade for most people. The PS4, on the other hand, is cheaper, more available, and totally capable of running the kinds of games people still want to play. So for a huge portion of the global audience, it's still the go-to platform. And Sony isn't just going to stop serving those players. That'd be really dumb. That would be leaving a ridiculous amount of money on the table. You know, even the secondhand market feeds into Sony's ecosystem. Someone sells a used PS4, sure, but that new buyer now has access to the PS Store. They more than likely are going to create a new PSN account, probably download some free games, and eventually start buying things digitally. That's a new customer, even if the hardware isn't new. And that cycle just keeps going on and on. It's another reason why Sony doesn't have to actively push the PS4 anymore. That thing is sustaining itself. And then you've got the third-party publishers. These studios aren't blind to where the audience is. If millions of players are still on PS4, you bet they're going to release a PS4 version of their game. It's just good business. It's just smart business. And again, this is where my dumb gamer mentality was blinding me from the reality. Like, remember when they released Jedi Survivor for the PS4? Dude, I was like, come on, man, let this system go already. But now I just can't say that anymore. I get it now. You know, the PS5 offers a better experience for sure in the form of higher resolution, faster loading times. But you know, if the gameplay itself can run on a PS4, it's getting a PS4 version. And when third-party devs keep supporting the platform, that creates this loop. Like, Sony keeps the back-end infrastructure alive to support those releases. The players keep buying and playing them, and the cycle continues. So it's not about whether the PS4 can compete with the PS5 anymore. Who even cares about that? It's about the fact that it doesn't need to. It just needs to exist. And you know, it looks like Sony has also learned how to balance both generations at once. This cross-gen approach used to feel temporary, something that would fade after a year or two, but that window has stretched. Some of it was definitely due to the pandemic and chip shortages, sure, but part of it is definitely strategic. Keeping the PS4 alive lets Sony keep foot in both worlds. They can chase cutting-edge performance with the PS5 while still making money off the massive audience still on last gen. It's a rare win-win situation, man. And maybe the biggest reason the PS4 is still alive is that Sony doesn't have to do much to keep it going. They're not pouring major resources into PS4-only titles. They're not advertising it heavily because they don't need to. The system is already in place, and all they have to do is maintain it. It's kind of like owning some good real estate, you know? You got a bunch of rental properties out there just giving you passive income over and over again. It's like, why would you let that go? So yeah, it's easy to look at a new generation of hardware and assume the old one gets left behind. But that just hasn't been the case here. The PS4's continued survival isn't an accident. It's the result of a platform that was built to last, backed by a company that understands the value of keeping as many people in the ecosystem as possible. So, you know, after sitting around looking at this and thinking about this, my whole perspective has changed on this whole PS4 thing. I used to be so frustrated with that system. I've just wanted it to go away so Sony can fully focus on PS5 and beyond, but I'm not at all bothered by it anymore. It's all good. And honestly, if I could put myself in the shoes of, let's say, someone in Brazil, where consoles are insanely expensive, I would be so happy that the PS4 still exists and it's still getting supported and I can still play awesome games on it. I got to look at it from that perspective. You know, a lot of us in the West, we have this mentality to only focus on the West. It's like it's almost impossible for us to look outward and you know, realize that there are other places in this world that exist. There are other types of people out there that exist. It's not just us. And those people matter too. They matter just as much as we do. And when I look at it from that perspective, man, it's still awesome that the PS4 is putting in work like it is. You know, to be able to boot up something like Fortnite or Warzone or Apex Legends or something, maybe some single player game like Jedi Survivor or whatever. There's a ton of stuff to play on the PS4. To do it at low cost or even for free a lot of the times, man, that's freaking awesome. And it's kind of like PC gaming in a way, because you've got guys out there who have just hyper expensive mega rigs, 5090 rigs and whatnot, playing at 4K maxed out settings, super frame rates and all this type of stuff. But at the same exact time, you still have a lot of people running 2080s, maybe 3060s, you know, lower spec GPUs, lower spec consoles, still playing a bunch of games and having a great time too. Yeah, they're not able to play the most current stuff at high frame rates and high resolutions and all that, but there's still an almost infinite amount of games that they can play and play at good quality on those old systems and have a good time as well. So yeah, it's different. It's not like the old days where you would have a new generation, a new console, and then, you know, eventually that older console would get phased out kind of quickly. It's just not like that anymore. And that's okay. Things change. That's fine. And I'm pretty sure that when the PS6 comes out, the PS5 is probably going to run on a similar track, right? It's probably going to have a whole lot of life in it that's going to last for over a decade, which I could easily see happening now. And I'm actually cool with that. My perspective has completely shifted. My understanding and the way I feel about this has completely shifted about this whole thing. So I'm going to get out of here. I'm going to stop rambling now. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I'll be talking to you again real soon. Have a good one.